I need to apologize because I have just been talking for 15 minutes and nobody can hear me. So I do hugely apologize for that. My mic was not on and I didn't realize it. I have this little mic that I need to press and click it when it comes on. So I apologize and I will start again. Sandra Pollock, and this is the first of some of the sessions I will be running during the month of October to celebrate Black History Month. And I have invited a few of my friends, old and new, to join me and to talk about Black History Month and also to talk about the theme for this year, which is Proud to Be. What are your views on that? What are you proud to be, as both as a Black person, but whatever culture you come from, share what you're proud to be. So my guest, Carol, has joined me. Carol Leeming MBE FRSA, and I slow down because words and letters, I have dyslexia, so words and letters I have to take my time with. So Carol, hopefully you can hear me and we can hear
Yes.
you. Yes,
Yes,
great.
hopefully, great. Firstly, apologies. One can lose track, so I do apologise, but I'm very glad to be here. Warm greetings to everyone that's tuning in. Thank you.
Wonderful, Carol. So thank you for joining me. And you are my first guest for the sessions, which is wonderful. So Black History Month. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about the theme, as I mentioned earlier, Proud to Be, and what your views are with regard to that. So I'm gonna get you started with a controversial question. So sometimes and many times when we have October here in the UK, which we celebrate, you get those comments that pop up that say things like, we shouldn't only be celebrating Black History Month in October. Why is it only once a year and all of that sort of stuff? What are your views on whether or not we should have this celebration in October? What do you think?
Well, there's two things. Firstly, when we give a consideration of 500 years of slavery, imperialism, colonialism, and a toxic legacy of racism from that, from the ideology, we need to understand that actually Black history, Black studies, understanding that 500 years toxic racist legacy is something we address 365 days of the year across all sections of society. What we're doing in Black History Month is a highlight. It's a focus. That's what it is. So, really, the idea is to highlight, a focus, and it's also there to galvanize people for the rest of the year to be thinking, learning about these issues and gathering information to make positive change. And I think, given in the wake of Black Lives Matter, that's even more pressing than ever before. But yes, it's 365 days of the year. I'm encouraged that Wales now is making mandatory to learn Black history, Black culture at all schools.
Yes, I read that. I think I read that yesterday.
Yeah.
And similarly I was like, yes, because Black history is everybody's history.
It is. Black people have been here since actually before the Romans.
Yes.
And we've had continuous presence down all the centuries. It doesn't start with Windrush.
No, and it doesn't start with slavery. And and that's an important thing, because the way that this has been, the way that we have been educated, the way that information about the African diaspora contribution has been shared gives the impression that it's only since slavery.
No.
And that's not true.
It's actually world history. So if we're going to really think about it, and in fact, Black people of African descent form part of a world majority. And if we go to ancient Kemet, Egypt, You know, I was just reading the other day that Alexander, when he went to Alexandria, Egypt, he took a lot of the books and sent it back to Greece. And a lot of the Greek philosophers were already going to Egypt to study. But then when he took all the books from the Alexandria Library, they basically took and plagiarized a lot of the philosophy and information from the Egyptians. So when we're studying and looking at Black history, we're looking at world history.
History. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is, I believe, what more and more people need to clearly understand. And that you know, that the way that things have been plagiarized and changed, and you know, and yeah, that does need to change. And I know from, you know, both speaking to people and other things that I've read, that when some people find out the truth, they say, no, this is wrong. So is that deeper education that needs to continue,
and to understand that the society and the life that we have has derived from Black people's labour, Black people's contribution. But what's also interesting is the way David Olusoga and others have shown that even within white, inverted commas, white families, there is Black heritage somewhere along the line, including our own royal family. So when a woman called Percy Thomas some years ago for Black History Season in Leicester coined something like, you know, my Black history is your history, is our history, that really summarizes it, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Carol, how do you celebrate Black History Month? And I want you to sort of consider this question in two parts. I'd like you to think about it from a professional perspective. So what are you up to? What are you doing? And also from a personal perspective.
Well, I'll start off by saying I've been celebrating Black history probably about 30 years. So, you know, and I've been participating in Black studies, Africology, as some people call it, you know, everything studying coming from Africa and what goes on in the diaspora as well. And so I've been doing that a long time. So on a personal level, you know, I do look forward to the highlight of Black history, because you do get these amazing events, films, seminars, talks, performances, you know, a whole range of things. But also all Black artists and Black intellectuals know that this is a month that you're going to be busy. It shouldn't be like that. We'd like to be busy all year round. Actually, we'd like to be a lot more busy all year round, but you know, we know. But yeah, it is a highlight, it is a focus, and it is a cause for celebration. But it's a time to remember our ancestors, which is what I do. But I would finish by saying, in my house and in my life, I'm celebrating Black history all the time. You know, I'm venerating my ancestors. I'm disseminating and learning information about Africology, you know, about Africa, about the African diaspora, its arts, its culture, its philosophy, its science, its technical. I was very encouraged watching on TV yesterday this Earthshot series of programs about climate change. There's tremendous innovation around solar power and innovation in inventions and techniques in Africa, because there's such a need for clean, renewable energy, and I'm really encouraged by that sort of thing. So I wouldn't want anyone to think, oh, she's just studying all the time about slavery. No. I'm taking a very broad view, not just of our history beyond before slavery, but also looking at contemporary developments around you know, Africa and the African diaspora.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I certainly agree with particularly that last point. There is so much going on in Africa in terms of, you know, how people are using the resources that they have, changing how they're using the resources, creating new ways of using the resources, and actually taking some of the technology that we have and we're taking it for granted, they're looking at it completely differently and using it in more simplified and cheaper ways as well, because you know, as you rightly said, there is a greater need.
And
Um,
making it accessible and showing it. I mean, I loved last night that this guy is creating these solar battery things, and people are sharing and bartering energy and all this.
mhm,
You know, it's about the we, not the me, and I
yes.
really feel very encouraged by that. But on a personal level, during October, I'll be involved in two key events as part of Leicester's Black History, and one of those is a Black Arts in Education, which is organised by the City Classroom, which is part of Leicester Cultural Education Partnership, which is going to be myself, Dave Stickman Higgins, and Louise Catarega. And we're going to be talking about the importance of Black British arts
Mm,
and you know, Black arts in education, and that's going to be very much aimed at teachers and people working in the arts, but of interest to anybody else. It's going to be an online event, so I'm doing that, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'm also going to be in a conversation in an event that's organised by the Stephen Lawrence Research Centre at De Montfort University, titled "Where's the Love in Lovers Rock?" And
mm,
very excitingly, we have one of the queens of
yeah.
Lovers Rock who's going to be part of that, Sandra Cross,
Mhm.
and she'll also be singing, which is a
Oh,
real
wonderful.
yes. But we're also going to hear some headlines from Dr. Lisa Palmer's research into women and lovers rock. So that's going to be a broad discussion about women in the music industry, but specifically lovers rock. And I think that's a very timely discussion, given Steve McQueen's TV drama. You know, lovers rock is everywhere at the moment.
Mhm,
Everyone's talking about lovers rock, and how it affected a particular generation of Black and white people
mhm,
in
mhm.
this country and around the world, because the lovers rock obviously is an international phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds very exciting. It is in my calendar, so
Oh,
I
good.
am also hoping to attend and to be there.
Mm,
So this year, the theme for Black History Month is proud to be.
mm,
So,
mm.
what are you proud to be?
Well, I'm proud of all my heritage, actually, and specifically talking about Black heritage. You know, I'm really one of those lucky people who's been able to have her DNA tested.
Wow.
So I do know my African ancestry, tribal ancestry, from mitochondrial DNA. So that's 12 generations of mothers' mothers, which is Mandinka, Malinka, Sire, and desert people, which is all Senegambia
Mm,
and the Sahara, sub-Sahara area. And that gives one an incredible sense of empowerment,
mhm.
because you're able to track a lineage
Yeah.
and you're able to know where you come from. I think when I was growing up as a child, because we didn't have access to know who we are and what we are, because slavery, imperialism, colonialism sought to completely erase all of that, our language, our culture, everything else, one always had a sense of alienation and dislocation,
Mm,
and one wasn't confident, you know. And
yeah.
then there was the added feeling of inferiority about the trauma of slavery. And I just remember as a kid watching Roots and being very angry and lots of fierce arguments at school. But I think once you know, make a lifelong study, as I have, of Africa, its culture and its diaspora, and you actually look into your own genetic
Mm,
heritage, this is incredibly enriching and empowering, and it makes you far more confident as an individual. And as you can see, I try to express my Africanity with natural hair and, you know, my earrings, my, you know, my image. But equally in my home, I have a lot of African artifacts. I have an ancestral altar. I'm, you know, bringing, well, having also traveled, sorry, I should
mm,
say importantly, having traveled to Africa, I feel I've made the triangular connection
mm.
spiritually and psychologically in every way, and that completed something in me. But
Yeah.
also now Africa is very resonant and radiating within me, if I could describe it that way. So I am Africa. Africa is in me, And I'm very proud of that heritage, because I think growing up as a child in an African Caribbean community, you weren't always made feel proud of anything to do
Yeah.
with Africa or your African heritage or African people for that matter. And of course, raising your consciousness through study and exposing yourself to talks and lectures and, you know, events, you gain confidence and you become very proud. I mean, I was proud when I was 13 when it was Black is Beautiful, you know, I'm Black
Yes.
and I'm beautiful. People like Angela Davis and
Yeah.
other
And the big
icons.
afros and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember
And
those.
also I would highlight I'm going to see again at the Phoenix Cleopatra Jones, which is part of Serendipity's Blaxploitation, because that was the first time I saw a Black woman on a big screen who was beautiful, and she was like doing martial arts and everything. Had a profound effect on my image and self-esteem as a young Black woman. So I think it's very important to nurture your identity.
Yeah.
And I always say identity is like a Rubik cube. So in my Rubik cube, there's all this African tribal and everything else, but you know, there's also some Scottish there and Irish, you know, but it's part of my Rubik cube. We build our identities, and our identity is a very important part of our health and well-being.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's so much there that it resonates with me, in terms of, you know, being a young Black British child with, you know, Barbadian heritage. I totally felt disconnected to
Yeah.
everything and everybody until my mum took us to Barbados. We used to go on holiday, and that was great because, you know, you got that connection of, you know, where you're from
Yeah.
and that value. And then we did go to live there, which
Mm.
completely changed my
Yeah.
view, because
Yeah.
the education there about
Yeah.
slavery, about the truth of what happened and that sort of stuff,
Mm.
liberated my mind with regard to that. But I also had the opportunity to go to Africa.
Yeah.
I went to South Africa,
Yeah.
Johannesburg, and I always say, you may have heard me say this already during our chats, but when the plane landed and I got out of my seat and went to just the front of the plane, I hadn't even started to go down the stairs yet. Just there, I honestly felt that, and I'd never been to Africa before, I
No.
felt as though I had come home.
Yes,
It
that
was
is
the
a very
most
strong
bizarre.
feeling. And it's a
Yeah,
very common feeling that
yeah.
people, Black people who go to Africa for the first time. I mean, in my own experience, I think the experience started before I even left England. I felt I was purging from my consciousness all the Tarzan films, all the negative, stereotypical racist representations of Africa and Black and African people. So this was going on for some weeks before I actually got to I actually went to Gambia. But actually I remember looking at the plane and getting very excited, and I remember as you literally step onto the ground, it's like click click click,
Yeah, yeah.
something happened. And
And
this is an incredibly common
yeah.
experience that Black people have going back to Africa, which is why I encourage, you know, Black people who've never been to go. But equally, I resonate with what you were saying. I mean, I was fortunate enough as a young child to spend time in Jamaica. My mum and sent me and my brother to go and live there for a while. And again, you get another perspective,
Yeah.
as you know, compared to people who were Black people born in England who have never been either to the Caribbean or to Africa. That you will have a very different sense of who you are and what your culture is. And this is so important. And the point I want to make is that when we say we felt dislocated or alienated, that's because of the society we were in.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important not to say this is our fault. It was because we were in an environment that was hostile and toxic to the development of our positive identity and well-being. It was a race that, you know, Enoch Powell, you know,
Yes.
teachers who knew
Yeah.
nothing about our us, our hair, our culture. And in
Mhm.
fact, I was just talking with colleagues yesterday, Dave Stickman and Louise. I heard some horrendous stories from both of them about being hit by teachers, and
Mm.
teachers coming out with racist language and abuse in school. Now,
Mm.
we've got laws against that now, but in the 60s and those early
No,
60s, we didn't
no.
have laws against that then.
Mm.
Children
And
were vulnerable. I say now that that would be part of safeguarding. Safeguarding we think of in terms of abuse, but it
mm.
would also include racist abuse by a teacher.
Mhm. And there is that emotional and psychological abuse as well, because
Yeah.
the words, those the how you make up the words, the sentences, how people are spoken to, how they're treated, they have an impact on our psychology and our emotional state and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And and going back, just to say that when I was there at the top of the stairs at the plane, I literally, to this day, I can feel it, that my ancestors came
Mm.
and met me there.
Mm.
So, and I agree with you, spending time studying, understanding our
Mm.
Black history, our
Mm.
culture,
Mm.
connecting however we can with our understanding of our history as Black people, even if we can't, get to the point where we
Mm.
make those physical connections, but learning, understanding.
Mm.
Um,
But I would make the point as well that white people have to learn
I
as
was
well.
just,
Yeah,
I was just
they
about
need
to go
to
to that
understand.
same
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Go
Because
ahead.
the more white people also learn about who we are, what we are, and our history and our culture, they will also learn their own
Own,
history,
yes,
which has
yes.
been denied them. The whole establishment narrative about imperialism, colonialism was good, and that slavery wasn't illegal at the time, and all that sort of thing. You will, if they actually go to other sources, and a lot of the information coming out now, they will understand the
Mhm.
truth
Yeah,
of their own British white
yes,
history, so
yes.
called, and understanding it's inextricably intermingled with our own, and that the great in Britain only became great because it was off the backs of all the people that they colonized, raped, and ravaged around the world. And that's important for white British people to learn their own true,
History, yeah,
proper history,
yeah.
and also the history of working class white people in this country.
Mhm.
It's all inextricably linked.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
I agree, and it's about everybody taking responsibility to learn
Yes.
for themselves. So we are, as Black people, continually learning
Yeah.
about ourselves, but that's because our learning, to date has been about the English, the white
Yes.
history as it was. I always
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
history is written by the conquerors. So,
That's right. Yeah.
by that picture
Mm.
of history that we were all taught.
And
So we're all having to learn.
yeah, I want to emphasize that
Mhm.
this is not a chore. This is not laborious. It's actually incredibly exciting
Mm.
learning about,
Yeah.
Black, African, and diasporic cultures. It's very, whether it's maths, whether it's science, whether it's healing.
Mhm.
I came across, surgery that was being done in Africa eons before it was ever done in Europe.
Mhm.
It's actually an interesting journey of discovery and delight.
But it's a journey of discovery of mankind.
Yes, the
The
world.
world, who we
Yeah,
are as the
yeah,
human race,
yeah.
and the different aspects,
Mm, mm,
of the human race.
absolutely.
So people get a bit scared about it because we are separate. They see it as separatist, separating white, separating Black,
No, it's not.
separating.
Not
But
at all.
that's not what it's
It's
about.
actually
We're all,
integrative. If you
yes,
take it on its final overall analysis,
absolutely.
it's actually quite integrative. But the key thing is it's restorative.
Yes,
Okay, it's
absolutely.
putting things back that are missing, that
Hmm.
was missing in our education, missing in our learning, and it's actually restoring things. It's not
Absolutely.
making up anything new. I mean, a good example of this is colonial countrysides, which really exercised our right-wing media and politicians. Um,
Yeah.
it's a simple project. We're going to look at stately homes, and we're going to look at their links with slavery in terms of their gardens, what they grew, the plants that were brought from the colonies, and slave plantations. And we're going to look at all their artifacts and all the furniture and all the wood, you know, and we're going to trace it back to
Mhm.
plantations and slavery. Simples. And
Mhm.
the young children involved in that project couldn't get enough of this history that they were never ever taught, and they
Mhm.
kept asking, why were we never taught this? And it's an interesting project. I believe there's now a future learn course that
Yeah.
anyone can do about the colonial countryside project, which is fascinating to know where all these textiles and wood and
Mm.
you know, how the money to build these houses, where
Yeah.
did it all come from? Well, it came from slavery, imperialism and colonialism, and we should know this.
Mhm.
You know, we
Yeah,
should actually know
definitely.
these things, where these things come from.
Definitely. It is always wonderful to speak with you, Carol. It's, you know, there are always things that we learn and we explore or be reminded about. And that's why I love our conversations together.
Well,
So
I just hope everybody, you know, takes advantage of what's on at the season, you know, to get a brochure or to have a look online and dip your foot into something you wouldn't normally do. And I hope I
mm,
might see you at the Cleopatra Jones film, because I'm planning to go and see that. It's wonderful.
great, wonderful. Carol Leeming MBE FRSA. Put you all your letters behind your name, post nobs, noms. Thank you so much for sharing so openly and widely with us, and both personally as well. You know, sharing what you do in your home, how you continue your connection with your ancestors, and what you're doing for our community as well. So I look forward to us catching up again. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, Sandra. Always a pleasure, and my warm best wishes to all the people that are tuning in now. Have a great
Great.
day. The sun is
Thank you.
shining, so
It is
let's go
beautiful.
for it.
It is beautiful. So I'm going to sign out now. We have another chat coming up tomorrow with Nyla Matthews, who's going to be talking about Black History Month as well, and proud to be from her perspective. And again, if you'd like to join me for one of my chats, there's always lots of different topics that I'm talking about, then message me offline. Thank you so much. And I'll catch you again next time. Love and
Thank
light.
you.
Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye. See
Bye.
you.